Okay, so good morning again. So again, this is going to be our first lesson, which is Java. Okay, so again, we have to discuss Java so that we will be able to fully understand how to implement object-oriented. Since Java is going to be the main platform or main programming language that we will be using to understand understand how to implement the object-oriented approach. Okay, so for today's class, we will be able to understand or topics that will be discussed for today will be history of Java, what is Java, Java platforms, JVM or Java Virtual Machines, JDK, Java Development Kit, and benefits and features of using Java. Okay, so before we start, are there any clarifications, concerns with everyone? Anyone? Wala. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so some takeaway points. So at the end of this session, you will be able to understand and discuss what the history of Java. Okay, define what is Java, differentiate and discuss the different platforms that Java has, and understand the uses and functionality of Java Development Kit, and understand and discuss how Java Virtual Machine works. Okay, so without further ado, let's start. Meron pa pala. So identify the components of Java programs. Okay, so with this time, without any further ado, let's start. Ako, meron pa. Understand the implements Java program construct. Ayan. So, run history of Java. Okay. So, Java started in 1990 from Sun's Microsystem. Okay, so it is an interlock project known as the project or the Green Project to work on new technologies. Okay, so as you all see, Java really started in 1990. Yan. And then his team originally considered C++ as the language to use, but soon abandoned it for an entirely new language called Oak. Okay, so you are familiar with C++. So originally, uh, in Project Green, they are planning to actually create Java using the again, C++ programming language. Kasi nga, actually one of the most powerful programming languages meron tayo is C++. You can actually create uh, operating systems with the use of C++ alone lang. So ganyan kalakas talaga or ganyan kalakas si C++. But then later on, the team decided to change the programming language that is used and ginamit nila is Oak. Okay. And then in 1992, the Green Project was spun off its interval directed in the building highly interactive device for cable TV industry. It failed to materialize. So, ang nangyari dito is actually the creation of the project or using Java uh, now, it is actually created in building interactive devices. Okay? So, iba't ibang mga device, you have different types of device and then they will be able to interact with each other with the use of the green project. But then, later on, they decided to change and lumipat sila sa cable system industry na lang. The problem is, when they went to the cable TV industry, hindi masyado nag-hit yung product. And it failed to materialize. Ibig sabihin, hindi kumita. Walang, hindi sila kumita. Okay? So, because of that, so in 1994, the focus of the original team has retargeted this time on the use of internet technology. So since palyado yung sa cable TV industry, so the team decided to look for different uh, field kung saan pwede ilagay yung Project Green para kumita. Okay? So that is why in 1994, they decided to change and go through the internet technology na ngayon. So from uh, device communications napunta sa TV cables, and then again, internet technology. Okay. So and then a small web browser called Hot Java was written. Uh, Oak was renamed to Java after learning that Oak has already been trademarked. Okay. So, ang nangyari dito is they created a small web browser named Hot Java. And then doon nila ngayon i-apply or doon nila since internet technology siya, nagre-rely siya sa internet. So if they want to test the product, they have to create a web browser. So that is why the Hot Java was created. And then dapat they are planning to use Oak as the name. But the problem is it is already been trademarketed. Ibig sabihin, may gumagamit na ng oak. So, hindi nila pwedeng gamitin yung name na oak. That is why they went to with Java. Okay, instead of oak. Right? So, now, Java came from several individuals involved in the project. So, these are the following people who actually had the major contributions in creating Java. First, we have James Gosling, Arthur Van Hoff, and Andy Bechtolsheim. Okay? I'm not really sure kung paano pinopronounce yung apelido ni Andy, no? Medyo ano siya. But I call him Andy lang, para klaro. Okay? So, so next, in 1995, Java was first publicly released, 1995. Okay? Then, in 1996, the first Java Development Kit 1.0 is released. Now, let me ask you, is anyone of you familiar with what is a JDK or Java Development Kit? Anyone? Meron bang may idea kung ano ang JDK?
Wala po,
Wala?
sir.
Wala. Okay, sige. Ito na lang. So, to sum it up, JDK or Java Development Kit is ito yung pina-install ko sa inyo, 'di ba? So, if Java Development Kit is kumbaga the kit or yung package that is needed for you to be able to run Java on your computer. Okay? Kumbaga siya yung parang installer ni Java. Okay? So yan. So as of the moment, we are I think in JDK 16 na meron ngayon. Okay? But the very first JDK was released in 1996. Kaya nga if you're going to just install Eclipse or yung NetBeans, okay, it will not work unless you have a JDK installed. Klaro. Kaya nga, if before nyo i-install yung mga Eclipse NetBeans, tinatanong nila, chine-check muna nila if there is a JDK or Java installed on the system. If wala, it will prompt you that it requires a JDK installed in your system before mag-proceed sa installation ng IDE ng Java. Klaro? Meron ba dito nag-try na unang mag-install ng IDE kaysa dun sa Java? Meron bang nakatry or inuna talaga mo ni Java? Wala pa? Okay, sige. Sige lang. Sige, if later on, sige, try nyo. Tingnan nyo if makaka-proceed ba siya nang wala pang JDK na naka-install. Okay? So, next, in 2002, JDK 1.4 named Merlin was released and most widely used version. Okay? So, that is in 2002. And then in 2004, JDK 5 na codename Tiger was released the latest version. So mapapansin niyo yung mga codenames na ginagamit nila is usually more on the animals talaga. Okay? So as you can see here this is now yung poging nandyan. That is actually James Gosling. James Gosling is generally credited as the inventor of the Java programming language. So, although there are three major contributors for the development of Java, James Gosling is the most credited one kasi siya yung may pinakamalaking contributions doon sa tatlo. That is also why he is considered as father of Java. Okay, so he was the first designer of Java and implemented its original compiler and virtual machine. So siguro you are now already familiar with what is a compiler, okay? And then what is a virtual machine? Virtual machine is kumbaga virtual machine is siya yung ginagamit ni Java para mag-convert ng code into a machine language. Okay? Siya yun. So, he is known as the father of Java. Okay? Then, he is currently the chief technical officer of Sun's Microsystem. Yeah, so that is James Gosling. Okay? May mga tanong ba tayo dyan before we proceed? Okay, walang mga tanong? Okay, if walang tanong, let's proceed. Okay, so here are some quick Java quick facts. Okay, so first we have 4.5 million Java developers. The largest community in software development. Actually, this is a while back. Matagal na to. This is not updated. Okay, pero as of the moment, mas tumaas pa yung number na yan ngayon. Okay, so di ko na din ito i-discuss. So, okay. So, actually, there are around 220,000 downloads for the GK 1.1 alone in just 3 weeks and 2 million after a year. So, as of the moment, medyo madami na talaga yan. Okay? So, 2 million downloads for J2EE SDK. So, later on, I'll be discussing what is J2EE and what is an SDK. Okay? So Java 1 draws 20,000 becoming the world's largest developers conference. Ayan. Okay. So over 400 Java users groups established worldwide and Java runs on consumer and embedded device. Ayan. Software that powers the Mars rover. Okay. So are you familiar with Mars rovers? Okay. Mars rovers is the device that was used to travel or to navigate the surface of Mars na meron tayo. Okay? Actually, uh, Mars rovers was actually, or the system or software that was actually used to run the Mars rover is actually developed using Java. Okay? So, yan. So, actually, see, Java is everywhere. Okay? So, next we have Java language. So Java is a multi-platform network-centric object-oriented programming language. Okay, so mapapansin nyo, andyan yung keyword, object-oriented programming language. That is why we are using Java for the subject na object-oriented. Okay, so multi-platform. So what do you mean by multi-platform? It can run in almost any computer platforms. Now, when we say almost any computer platforms, we are now referring to the operating systems na meron tayo. So, what are operating systems? So, example of operating systems na meron tayo is Windows. You have your Mac for Apple. You have also your Ubuntu, Kubuntu, and then you also have your Linux. So you have to take note, madami tayong klase ng mga platforms, okay? Or mga OS. It's up to you if ano yung gusto niyo gamitin. But the problem is now, the problem with having a different platforms is they don't support each other's what do you call this one, mga softwares. So for example, if you're going to install an application on Windows, that the installer that you use to install the software on Windows will not work on the other platforms. Uh, it is created for Windows application, exclusively for Windows lang. Okay? So as you can see, for Windows, the file extension na ginagamit for is actually is an ginagamit is exe. Okay? Are you familiar with exe format? Okay? So if you'll be installing sa mga Windows, ang ginagamit talaga nila is ano ba to? Exe. Okay? Now, how about for Androids? Ano yung ginagamit natin para mag-install sa Android? Ano yung file format nila?
APK,
Ayan.
sir?
Okay, very good. So, ang ginagamit nila is yun na nga, JDK yung ginagamit nila na file format. So, mapapansin nyo iba-iba. So, with Mac, iba din yung ginagamit.
Okay, with Linux, iba din yung ginagamit nila ng mga formats. Kaya nga nagkakaroon tayo ng problema when it comes to what we call this one, having on using the same products on the different. Kaya nga mapapansin nyo, in C++, kahit in C++, iba yung installer ng C++ para sa Windows, iba din yung para sa and iba din yung para sa mga ibang versions. And nagkakaroon sila ng problema pag ilaran yun. But with Java, it can actually run in any platforms. Okay? Pero mapapansin niyo, sir, pero bakit yung binigay mo ng installer, exe pa rin yun? Ibig sabihin, that is, again, installers is for exe. Okay? Later on ko na nagdi-discuss kung paano niya nagagawang mag-run sa iba't ibang platform. Okay? So, you just have to understand, when using Java, it can run on any platforms. Okay? The file that you created can run into different platforms. Okay? So, moving on. Okay. So next we have network centric. So designed with network in mind. So the network is the computer. Okay. So design in building applications for the internet. So again, it is called network centric kasi they are really focused on designing the app to connect to the internet. Kaya nga mapapansin niyo ngayon, we also have yung JavaScript. Okay? JavaScript is again is also a Java. Java, it is really not considered as a programming language, but it is more like a scripting used para naman sa web. If you want to design mga web apps or mga websites, you use Java. It's actually really similar with Java na we will be discussing. Kaya nga madali na lang mag-migrate if you want to learn about JavaScript later on. Okay? So next, we have object-oriented. Dito tayo mag-focus talaga. So, it incorporates object-oriented programming model. Okay? So, actually, now, almost lahat na, almost lahat naman ng mga programming languages ngayon has already incorporated object-oriented in their applications or in their programming languages. But, it is actually Java na nagpasikat ng object-oriented. Actually, C++ is also an object-oriented, also supports the object-oriented programming model. But mas nakilala talaga when it comes to object-oriented model, si Java. Like that is why Java yung gagamitin natin for this class. Okay, so moving on. We have here the different platforms for Java. Okay, actually we have a Java platform is set of APIs, class libraries, and other programs used in developing Java programs in specific applications. Yan. Okay, so Java Platform Edition. So actually we have three platforms for Java. Okay, we have Java 2 Platform Standard Edition, which is J2SE. This is the one that we will be using, okay, for this subject. We also have Java 2 Platform Enterprise Edition, and then you also have Micro Edition. So, ano ba yung mga ginagawa nila? Okay, so for J2SE, this is a core Java platform targeting applications running on workstation. So if you intend to create a Java program that runs in a computer yung medyo maliliit lang or small applications or small programs using Java, you use J2SE. Okay? But if you're going to develop a much bigger system for an enterprise or for a company, then that's the time you'll be using the J2SE. So, component-based approach to developing distributed multi-tier enterprise applications. So, mas malaki ang mga system. Okay? For example, yung Mars rovers, kung ginawa na kayo, that is created using J2EE na. Okay? So, next you have J2NE. So, J2ME targeted small, standalone, and connectable consumer embedded devices. Ibig sabihin, cell phones, smartphones. If you want to create mobile apps, then J2ME yung ginagamit natin na Java platform. Para ba tayo doon? Hello? Andiyan pa ba kayo?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Klaro ba tayo? May mga tanong ba before we proceed? Wala? O sige, let's move on. Okay. Again, sabihin niyo sa akin if medyo bumibilis ako para maka-keep up kayo. Okay. So we have now the Java or the JDK or the Java Development Kit. Okay. So this is now your Java Development Kit. Mapapansin niyo inside your JDK you have this is where you can have your JRE. Okay. So inside the JRE is you have your JRE is Java Resource Environment. And then you can see you can have inside there you have your program, and then you have the Java API and the Java virtual machine. And then the hardware-based platform. Ibig sabihin ng hardware-based platform, ito na ngayon yung OS na computer na ginagamit niyo. No, paano ba sila gumagana? So, okay. So first, Java Application Programming Interface. So is pretty. So ano ba si API? So API is a pre-written code organized into packages of similar topics. Okay? Kumbaga para siyang library. Okay, siya yung library kung saan nandiyan yung mga pre-written codes. If you want to access the function, you'll have to use the API. For example, API is actually very commonly used when it comes to web development. Okay? So for example, meron ba dito sa inyo may experience na when it comes to coding, mga websites o mga web apps? Meron ba dito? Wala? Okay, sige. Ito lang. Nowadays kasi, hindi naman sa ganong kahirap, okay? Mas pinadali na yung buhay ng mga programmers because nowadays, some of the codes or yung mga functions are being shared over the internet pag gumagawa ka ng mga web app. For example, if you wanted to have, if you want to add yung location, okay? Or you wanted to add a Google Map on your app, you don't have to code. You don't have to create a code to have a Google Map, okay? What you have to do is just access the API of Google and then access the Google Map. And then write the or copy the copy the copy the API or access the API of Google Maps and place it on your application, and you can immediately have the Google Map on your application. Kumbaga, hiniram or instead of creating your own map, ginamit mo or kinopy mo yung map ni Google. Then you can do that with the use of APIs. Okay? Kasi nga, doon sa API, if access mo sa API, makikita mo ngayon yung iba't ibang mga functions niya. Kakopy mo, ilalagay mo sa command, and then you can now access yung mga ibang functions sa API. Okay? Kaya ganun yung nangyayari with API. Klaro? Klaro ba sa API o medyo magulo? Klaro, hindi. Hello? May tao ba dyan? Hello? Hello? Andiyan pa ba kayo?
Sir, okay lang po.
Okay, sige. Make sure you're following, ha? You'll be having after the two topics that will be presented, you'll be having your first quiz. Okay. So, let's proceed. Okay. So, this is paano natin siya gagawin. So, first you have your source code or your Java code. Okay, for example, this is now your Java code. What happens next is it's going to go to the compiler. So you are already familiar with what is a compiler and what a compiler does. Okay, so next thing that is going to happen is that it will now turn the source code that was created, gagawa siya ngayon ng bytecode ng source code na yun. Okay? That a bytecode that is going to be a class file. Okay? Now, this class file is now going to be used para ibigay sa different virtual machines na meron or Java virtual machine na meron. Di nakita yung ano, meron pa yung Java virtual machine sa baba. Nawala. Di nakita. Okay? So, as you can see, kanina sabi natin, platform dependency Java. Kasi nga, di ba, kahit anong platform or kahit anong operating system, pwede natin siyang gamitin. Okay? Now, dito ngayon, this is how Java makes it possible. Kasi, as you can see, after pumasok sa compiler, it will create the the class file. It is actually the class file that is being used to run the program or the software in any platform. Okay? If you're going to have the source code or mapapansin, if you're going to write or run a program, and they're going to check the file again, magkakaroon kayo ng bagong file doon, and then that is going to be the bytecode. Now, if you're going to copy that bytecode and then place it in a different platform and then run it, pwede siya, it will run, unlike the other other programming languages na meron na hindi kayang gawin. That is how it is being platform independent dahil sa class file na yan. Ayun, meron tayong virtual machine and then native language. Dito pala siya napunta. So the bytecodes are interpreted by JPM and then JVM translate it into the machine language. So to make it clear, ganito yung magiging itsura niya. So you have your Java program and then pupunta sa compiler and then the compiler now writes the class file. And then the class file now goes to the different JVM na meron tayo. The interpreter is now the Java virtual machine. Okay? So pupunta siya ngayon sa mga JVM and then it will now translate to the language or machine language that the computer understand depending on what platform it is using. Okay? So kung meron kang Windows, kung i-interpret niya ngayon papunta sa language or machine language na maiintindihan ni Windows. If you're running Solaris, i-interpret niya ngayon papunta sa language na maiintindihan ni Solaris, and so on with Mac. So ganun siya nagiging platform independent. Klaro ba tayo? Klaro ba yon?
Klaro, sir.
Okay, so again, moving on, we have Java features. Okay, so this is one of the best feature is write one, run anywhere. Okay, kaya nga kasi na since platform independent siya, you don't have to rewrite your codes. Kasi usually now, if I'm not sure if you're familiar with mobile development, with mobile development, you have to create your program para sa Android, and then also you have to write the same program in a different language for it to run sa Apple. Okay? Kasi nga Apple is using Objective-C language para sa para sa software nila. So if you want to create an app for Apple for iPhones, you need to learn how to create or learn how to write Objective-C programming language. Okay? And then for Android naman, iba din yung language na gagamitin. So magkaiba. Okay? So Java is a portable and platform independent. So for us, it was network-centric. It can work with resources across network and multi-tier architectures, and then object-oriented. So Java program models are set to object interacting with each other. Yan. So those are the main features of Java na meron tayo. And then it is robust, strong type checking, exception handling mechanism. Okay. Have you encountered exception handling in C++? Have you tried exception handling in C++?
No,
Hello?
sir.
Okay. Pero sino yung nagkaroon na ng idea or nakagamit na ng exception handling? Or sino yung nakatry ng exception handling? Dito, meron ba? Wala. Wala? Okay, simple na yan. Exception handling is yung ginagamit natin if ever a software has encountered an error. Okay? For example, humingi ka ng input kay user and then you need the input should be a number. But then later on, si user inputted a character. So if you're not going to use exception handling, the system will automatically close. Mag-stop siya, di ba? Magko-close siya. Okay? But with try to imagine that happening pag nasa try imagining a software na ganon. Okay? Software, example, calculator. Calculator, tapos nag-input ka ng character, na-enter mo character, bigla lang siya na-shutdown, nawawala lang, di ba? Delikado. Okay? So what happens kasi sa may ibang softwares ngayon, if you're going to input ganyan, sinasabi lang na mali yung input. Okay? So, what happens at that is with the use of exception handling. So, exception handling, ibig sabihin nun, if there is an error that occurred to your application, pwede mo siyang remedyohan kung ano yung gagawin niya. Okay? So, may it be an runtime exception, ayan, madami kasing klase ng mga exception handling. Okay? Depende kung anong klaseng error ang nangyari. So, pwede nyo ngayon gawin, if this type of error occurred, ito yung gagawin na program. If iba naman ang nangyari, ito yung gagawin niya. Ito yung sasabihin niya. So, napoprogram nyo nga, hindi lang basta-basta mawawala yung app pag merong error, but pwede nyo na ngayong na ito yung gagawin niya. Okay? So, na-handle nyo ngayon every time nagkakaroon ng error sa mga softwares ninyo. That is actually exception handling. So next, you have automatic memory management. So, Java application can run several different processes called threads. Kaya nga naging multi-threaded. So, simultaneous, ibig sabihin, pwede ka mag-run ng iba't ibang madaming program ng sabay-sabay. Okay? Only problem is pag mag-run ka ng madaming program sabay-sabay, kumakain siya ngayon ng memory. Pag sobrang dami nang ina-open mo na app, sa time frequency mo, nagiging lag yung computer kasi nga sobrang dami na ng mga app na open or nira-run niya at the same sabay-sabay. Okay? So next, you have security. Can download an untrusted code over the network and can run it in a secure environment. Security levels, restriction are highly configurable. So that's all. So that is introduction with Java. So for as a summary, you will now be able to understand, discuss history of Java, define what is Java, differentiate, discuss the platforms of Java, understand the uses and functionality of Java Development Kit, understand and discuss how Java Virtual Machine works, identify components of Java program, and understand and implement Java programs. Okay. Lahat ba naintindihan to? Questions? Sige. Questions so far? Are there any questions, clarifications with the lesson? Anyone?